comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberations. And the first thing I want to get here is an approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Secretary.
I got a
Oh, go
correction.
ahead. Go ahead.
Resolution 3329, there were 5 yeses for that resolution, 1 no, I was the no vote.
It says that. 329.
Anyone else? Okay. The next thing we're going to have is a what? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Do you want to vote? Okay. Can you poll the board?
Commissioner Teal is a yes. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Pelagian?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
And President Sloniker.
Aye. The next thing we're going to have is a presentation by Brandon, our rec director. So the floor is yours.
Sure. Brandon Hibbler, Recreation Director here for the township. I try to come to 1 or 2 meetings a year to support the board as they support me. Just want to recap some summer things and open the floor up for any questions. First, Camp Whitehall was very successful this season. Numbers were up in the 30s, low 40s. We had 6 counselors and 2 co-directors. Huge credit to Chief Builder, who's here tonight. His staff, we did fire truck Fridays every Friday. They brought different fire trucks down. Our kids interacted. So credit to his staff. But again, Camp Whitehall, my second year running it have been really, really successful. Some things we did, we had the EAC come down to the park a couple times. We had action karate. We interact with 3 of the high school teams, the football team, the field hockey, and the softball team came down and interacted with our kids. So we're really engaging in the community and hope to continue to grow that program. Tree work has been completed at our parks. All of our main parks had $30,000 worth of tree work completed. Various trees that were dangerous over the last couple of years. Witch Tree Service completed those. Currently working at the Mickley Pride and Farm with Phase 2 and the documents and the bid specs for the Mickley Pride and Farm. Parkway Pavilion, before I get into that, the pavilion is pretty much complete. We're finishing the inside, the interior, installing the cabinets, installing the kitchen sink and the hot water heater, but can't be happy to finish that project. That leads me into probably one of my best highlights this summer. It was our summer concerts. What a huge hit for Whitehall Township. I had a vision of doing something big and successful, and it really worked out. Got to thank our police, our fire police, our vendors, the concert, the Board of Commissioners. Mayor is real supportive of it. We had a great opening night ceremony dedicated to the pavilion. And then we had 5 summer concerts that were successful. When I say we didn't have one problem, we didn't have one problem. We didn't have a hiccup with the electrical. We didn't have a police problem, a parking problem. The Aardvarks had 1,300 people. Our last concert had 800 people. It flowed pretty easily. Everyone was out of the park by 10 o'clock. I really think it's a great thing for Whitehall. I'm looking forward to building upon it and making it better in 25. People ask me about sponsorships and, can we raise some money maybe for the fire department or for the police or for the township. I'll look at different avenues of how we can generate some revenue. But it's minimal cost in our budget. I just think it's a service, and it's one of my honors to do it. And I got to thank my wife and my family. I was away 5 Saturday nights, in the summer, and working 40 hours here all week. But I was happy to do it. West Caddy is getting a new floor starting on August 26th. That's a long project. We serve about 200 seniors a week. It's in dire need of a new floor, so that's coming. August 26th. Hockey pool update. This Sunday is our last pool day for the season. We sold 654 passes, which is about 100 passes up from 2023. So pool was really successful, a lot of pool events. We had a DJ on Sunday night, because it got canceled Friday, but we had a DJ Sunday night, multiple pool events, well attended. So people that attend the pool here can attest to that. You know, our pool operations run really well. We have 18 lifeguards, 6 managers and a director along with myself. Our deposits with Tina, you know, we're spot on every day. You know, no, there's no money transfers. It's really an easy process. You know, our new pool tech is settled in well. I'm happy for him. Fullerton Playground is getting a new grant. We have a grant for $80,000. They're getting new playground equipment, new benches, more mulch. That's going to be done in the fall. We're finalizing the documents with Fullerton. And just some recreation notes. You know, my guys, I'm in charge of 6 full-time staff, but we've been busy fixing up. You know, we fixed the railing at West Caddy. We added solar lights, fixed basketball rims, you know, do mulch, all kinds of projects. We did help with the trailhead, clean the trailhead up. We help with the EAC frequently. You know, we fix fencing, you know, all kinds of stuff, summer-related work for our staff. And then things that I'm working on just in general. With Ken, we have the Miles Foundation and Handicap Playground. I'm in the middle of the Rec and Comprehensive Plan for the township, which is a big undertaking regarding the next, hopefully, 10, 20 years of Whitehall Township Recreation. I met with Fellowship Manor the other day about doing a fall event, working on budget, and then some different programs as I prepare for 25. Upcoming, we have the Halloween Parade on October 24th. We have Aqua Aerobics start on 9/17. The Historic Society Flea Market is on September 7th. Trick or Treat Night is Friday, 9/25. And then, of course, the Haunted Woods by the Fire Department up the Parkway. But again, I can't do my job without the support of the board, especially our mayor. Joe and I talk frequently, all different projects, all different ideas. You know, he's been a huge supporter, and I thank him for what he's done for me. And Jack and Lenore, and then, of course, Michelle sitting in the back, my secretary, who really helps keep us together. But again, we're in this together. I want to thank you, and if there's any questions, that's why I'm here tonight. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, great work with the concert series, Brandon.
Attorney Gross, do you want to give your thing now?
Sure, I can do it now. Just would like to note in the minutes that the township on July 22nd received 2 applications for agricultural security areas, one at 5439 Roosevelt Street and one at 4760 Robbins Street. Both applications were incomplete. No actions required. We're just required to note in the minutes that they were received.
Thank you. And, oh, she's hiding behind you. Did you want to give a presentation on this?
I didn't know if you wanted to look through it, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, and I wasn't sure whether or not you wanted to give a speech. Okay, courtesy of the floor, Mr. Secretary.
First up is Mr. Bruce Charles. Name and address, please, and we'll be playing the 3-minute clock for everybody that we all love here.
Sure. Bruce Charles, 76 Madison Lane. I'm following up on 2 items that I requested the board to consider for either an ordinance or some discussion. The first one, I think I got from you an answer, but I wanted to just go over it again and see if I can hear any comments. Diseased, dying trees posing threat to life and property damage. Again, any or all of you, I invite your comments, or you can come to my property and see for yourself what drives me to come to this meeting to talk about that, okay? I heard the recreation director talk about cutting some trees down, and they can become a problem, and it may be something that I think the board should be interested in. Secondly, I proposed a retiree or a senior waiver for this land preservation that was passed in November, allowing retirees, seniors, whatever, to opt out of this tax. And one of the reasons is we just saw a 4.5% increase from our friends down the road here at the school district. I understand we're going to have quite an increase in our refuse bill and all the other increased costs that come along with living today. So I'd like to hear any comments on that, or if there's interest or not. I don't know if it was discussed at any of your meetings or not, but that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Comments by anyone? And I know we didn't formally address the opting out to pay the taxes. However, it's a community thing, and it's not like, well, seniors don't get the opportunity to enjoy what we have there in the open space thing. It's not like the garbage thing where you make X number of dollars. We're going to see whether or not we can do the exoneration or the, lowering the price thereof of the bill, whatnot. But in this, I myself don't see where we could do that in a legal fashion. At least that's how I see it.
Well, I think it could be put up to vote just like it was in November. But again, I'm not an expert in this area. I'm putting it out to you. But I think it's something worthwhile. It was sold as a very small tax. So if it's a small tax and it's going to be additional revenue, how much are you going to lose? I think it's would be quite a service to people in the township.
Excuse me for interrupting, but what would be the criteria that you would use to say, okay, you don't have to pay on this? So if somebody has a retirement income of $200,000 a year, and there's people here who do, and then you have somebody at $20,000 a year, do you have the criteria in your head what we would be?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I actually thought about that. And again, that was exactly what I thought of. But again, it's so small. And if someone making $2 million wants to opt out, let them. I mean, what's the big deal? If someone that's making $26,000 in Social Security wants to opt out, that's their choice. That's simple. But anyhow, thank you. I'd like you to consider them. And I assume the first one on the trees was, I don't think there's any interest from what I took from my prior meetings. But it's, again, I would love to, even the mayor, if you'd stop out, I'd love to show you what I'm talking about. I'm still working with PPL. And again, these are trees that are not on my property, but they're threatening my home. And as I said before, I had the fire marshal out. If those wires and poles come down on my home, they can't fight the fire.
Can you please give me your address so I could drive by?
Sure. 76 Madison Lane.
Thank you.
Knock on the door, call me, and I'll be glad to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, next is Fran Lloyd.
Good evening. My name is Fran Lloyd. I live at 2011 Orchard Drive in Whitehall. And the reason why I'm here is the speed limit on Orchard Drive between 3rd and Lehigh. I don't know what people think, but nobody goes 25 miles an hour. And one of these days, there's going to be actually somebody injured as a result of this, a small child, an adult. You cross that street, you take your life in your hands. So I don't know what could be done about it. I've spoken to the police before, and it's just very, very upsetting that we have to live with this. I mean, I one time watched a car in 30 seconds go from below Washington to the dialysis place in less than 30 seconds. I mean, it's just not good. So, is anybody aware of this?
Yeah, Mr. President, could I address this? Ma'am, I just want to let you know, I'm setting up an initiative as the mayor. I don't know if you're familiar with the Copley, Chestnut Street, and Front Street signs, the digital signs that tell you to slow down.
Yes.
They're very visual. I've had a lot of experiences with that. I know a lot of people in Copley Borough, council, I know the Public Works Director personally. I asked them about their system. In Upper Macungie, out near Hamilton Crossings, there's some out there, and they're very visual, and it really piques your interest and actually compels you to slow down.
Right,
So what I'm doing is I'm trying to start an initiative here in the township. It's going to be on a limited basis as a test, but Orchard is on my list. I have a number of streets that are on my list. We only have limited resources, and I want to try them out. And if that helps calm the situation or, offsets the people, and possibly some people will pay attention to them. But Orchard is there, and we just had that tragic accident also.
right, that was
Yeah,
two doors down from my house.
Yeah, yeah. But I am addressing it, and we're going to try it. And I'm well aware of the situation. I was down there the other day looking things over, and I agree with you. There's a lot of intersections in this township that have,
Like a
same issue.
four-way stop at Washington.
right.
Like something to stop these people because they just fly.
Right. There was just a Morning Call article published. I don't know if you read it. There were comments made by myself. I commented that since COVID, it seems like people have lost their you-know-what. And we need civility back. People need to come to a complete stop, not roll through stop signs and lights. They need to slow down. They need to be courteous to their fellow drivers. I'm only one person. I put the message out there. I'm hoping something sticks and people listen. Because, you know what? We have to bring civility back to our society. I know COVID was tough. I know people suffered. But we need to tone it down a little. And
Okay.
I totally understand your concerns, and I will do everything I can to address it.
Thank you.
I would add one thing. Pennsylvania is the only state that does not allow local police to use radar. So for our police to set up a speed trap on a street like that, and there's restrictions on turning radiuses of the turns, but it takes more than one person to do that. So it would be great if the Commonwealth would finally allow our local police in Pennsylvania to use radar, so maybe spot enforcement. If a cop is out there one time a month with a radar gun and gives a ticket or two, folks are gonna think twice about speeding down that lane.
Plus-
But we need to give our police the tools to make their job easier, so.
Right, and I understand. Plus also the revenue the township would get.
Our folks don't use that as a revenue. It's
No,
really
I'm joking,
yeah.
I'm joking.
And we actually don't get the revenue. The state gets the majority of it, the mother load. The municipality does not. So anyone that ever says, it's a misnomer, anyone that ever says, well, you're out there ticketing people and you're trying to generate revenue, it's an untruth.
Okay,
The
thank
majority
you.
goes to the state.
If you do cross paths with one of your legislators, encourage them to support that law. So.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with Commissioner Warren. Reach out to your state representative and state senator and let them know that we need, VASCAR, whatever system, the state proposes. And we're more than willing to buy it and go out and do enforcement. But right now, our police hands are tied. They don't really have tools to prove in court that you were speeding, which is ludicrous. But we're one of the only states in the nation that don't have that.
Right, and that went out
So-
in the 80s, I believe,
Yeah.
is when they stopped doing that?
There were a
Back in
lot
the
of legal
80s?
challenges on, is the equipment calibrated, are the officers trained correctly? And it's ludicrous. I mean, with today's technology, these things are almost self-monitoring. So I don't know. It's at the state level, it's beyond our pay grade, and, we're doing our very best.
Right.
For the public's knowledge, the law that they have proposed had safeguards in it. You had to be 10 miles over the speed limit, meaning so you had to be egregious in your efforts. They could not put the speed trap within so many feet of a speed reduction zone. So, it was common sense legislation, so I just want to leave that with you.
Okay.
Last thought.
Thank you very much,
Ms. Lloyd,
gentlemen.
thank you for coming in.
And
I
ladies.
commute every day on Orchard. I live in Fullerton. I know a lot of people on Orchard that won't even let their kids in their front yards because of it. So I thank you for coming and for speaking on it, and I think there's a lot of people that probably would thank you as well, so
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Secretary, the next.
Is Andrea Hoagland?
Andrea Hoagland, 51 Kemet Avenue. I got a lot, but I don't have enough time. We still got the thing with Warren, with the cameras. I had found a problem with this young man talking about respect. Respect is earned, it's not given. Courtesy and politeness, yes. And I already seen that here tonight, a big change. So thank you for bringing that up at the last meeting. I'm off. Okay, I'm sorry, because I get nervous when I get up here at first. But my thing is, I still am requesting that you have an outside audit done of all your employees, of your finances and everything here. Every time, it's always something. Well, it came from the beginning, we all know about that park incident, but I was told that resources would not be coming to my district. I was told that a lot of things by the two employees that was gonna happen, okay? And I don't want to get kicked off or said I can't say this, but I'm a Black American. I was born and raised by Black American parents. We've been here our whole entire lives, okay? What you're doing, I've already seen it. I've already lived through it. When my parents was a second Black family in the white exodus, well, you didn't just leave, you took your resources with you. You stopped cutting our parks, you stopped emptying the trash, you stopped doing all that, and it looks like an eyesore. And then you talk about the community, like we did something because we don't cut our grass and we don't empty our trash cans. We don't hang our stop signs. We don't do any of that. So it starts to make us look bad, but besides that, you're hurting us. You're hurting my community. The jobs, like, okay, how did we hire Brandon over here so fast? I mean, he's doing an excellent job. I'm not saying he's not, but I told you, your Parks and Rec, something's not right with that man. And that's what got me here to begin with. Okay, then the mayor, I find out he's not right either. Then we got Mr. Warren with cameras in parks. And I asked him, I said, how many parks did you put cameras in, Mr. Warren? And nobody answered or cared. But he's the only one who can see the camera. Sir, I watched you for almost 2 years in that position right there, and you didn't speak much of nothing, okay, about anything. Important votes, less important votes. But when a man back here who usually sits here, and I think he has the same last name as you, that police officer, when you talked about those two BMW bikes, you went on for like 15 minutes, and you was in your glory. And I was saying to myself, are you related? Are you two related?
Our names are spelled differently now.
Okay, so I'm like, BMW, you kept going on and on about it. So this is what I have a problem with. No one here, how do you do your hiring practices? Then every time some money turns up missing, they'll say, oh yeah, the money turned up missing, but we never hear the closure of it. Did somebody get arrested? Did we find the money? Whatever. I went after the Treasury lady to the point where I thought you delivered the subpoena to the papers yourself. Did you deliver them to the mayor when he was accused of sex offenses? He had 3 sexual harassment charges brought against him. If I had a dog and my dog bit even one person, we would have put it down probably. But you allowed him to continue to collect his paycheck. Did you go after him as hard? Because I sat up here and I watched you laugh and joke with him. Okay, this gentleman that's sitting next to Ken, we had some non-important business, and he said, I'm going to step down and not vote on this. He did the honorable thing. I see y'all all the time, and you talk amongst yourselves, or you laugh about whatever you used to discuss money-wise, and then you would vote on it. Last month, 3 or 4 of us stood up here and asked you, please don't vote on the tax yet. And even Commissioner Ken had a question, because it was on the workshop part that he wanted to ask about, and y'all still voted on it? Like, we didn't even ask you not to vote on it. So again, it's like you said, this is a good old boy network. I was sitting in this meeting when you said, oh, this is not a good, but everything y'all do is a good old boy network. It's like, if you're a certain person, you have immunity. 2 of your workers told me they had immunity. The 3 of us never talked in the same room ever. So how did they get the immunity?
I'd like to clarify 2 things. I don't have voting power as the mayor, so I don't vote on any legislation. And secondly, I was at the forefront of every investigation that was held here, and I think everyone in this room knows that, and they know the truth.
Okay, but sir.
And I always do the right
Sir,
thing.
sir,
It's just like what's going on now.
This is our park
That's
now.
interaction.
Now, Brandon did a beautiful job with the park, and he got, look at this open, whoever lived in Fullerton, you know how windy
Excuse me,
it
I have a
is.
question
Who
for our
would put the
solicitor.
open- Who would put an open bid, and then the
No,
guy
Tom.
who cut your grass?
Relax.
Okay, he
She
used
has
to pick
courtesy
up-
of her
he
until I say
used to
she
pick up the
doesn't.
trash. He
And it's
now
the interaction
rolls
she's
over the
having with
trash,
the mayor
Mr.
now,
Lowe.
just like
Who
prior
cuts the grass
people.
and rolls over the trash?
Andrea.
20 pieces, 50 pieces of paper.
Andrea,
They're doing what
time
they
is
said.
finished.
Yes, sir. But
Okay.
they're doing what they told me they was gonna do. They're not gonna give us resources, and they're gonna.
And
they're
again,
gonna hurt
we
my community.
heard you, and you can,
The stop sign, it was put on a utility
Andrea.
pole, Mayor. Who puts a stop sign on a utility pole? There was a pole right there. They put the 25-mile-an-hour sign
Okay,
on the pole.
next person.
And the stop sign on the
I have a
utility
question
pole.
for our solicitor before we go to the next person.
Yeah, and the solicitor that says sue somebody.
this is not where you want to get into, Kevin.
Well, that's okay. I have a
Okay.
question for the board. We have, when we read the beginning of the meeting, there's certain rules we have to follow. Must the people who speak have to follow the same rules that we do? That's all I want to know.
I'm not going to go ahead when we have responses for the first few people that took time away from them, and then deny this person because there was interactions here, one with the mayor and one prior to that. But those, I'm not going to go ahead and say, well, you're down for 3 minutes. It's not going to happen when I'm here.
We'll
Simple as
discuss my
that.
question in a executive session.
Could I just ask, Mayor Marks, could you pass those down so we can, I'm interested to see those.
So I'll speak real quick on parks.
Whoa, Brandon.
No?
Sit-
Okay.
We're waiting for an answer from you. If
I'm
there is
sorry,
an answer,
what's-
I'm doing what I think is best for the courtesy of the
President
floor.
of the board runs the meeting, Mr. Snyder.
Now, Brandon, what is this on first?
Just a park issue that she brought up about the cutting the grass and, you know, I have 6 full-time staff and, you know, I'm really honest with people. You know, our guys take vacations, they have time off. We have 5 big parks we take care of, Cement and Fullerton, Jefferson, Stiles, and then we take care of our tot lots. Our parks get cut every 7 to 10 days, and then our tot lots, Wood Streets, and our smaller parks are every 10 to 12 days. That's kind of what our rotating schedule is.
Thank you. Next,
Will you acknowledge my hand
and
or no?
next, no.
Brandon just said
Your
he
time
said
is
that's
up.
not a truth.
Your time is up. This is not a discussion period with him.
Brandon.
If he wants to, you can talk outside the venue here. That's fine.
But, sir,
Who's next?
Sir, it has to do with me saying you're not doing the park, and I'm being punished.
Who's next?
Next is Mr. Mark, I'm sorry,
They cut the park without ever
Go ahead.
getting, oh my God.
Try your best. Spell
is there a
it.
Mark here?
When I said,
Sorry, sir, the last name? Caesar, I'm sorry, I couldn't read it out there.
Okay.
Mr. Mark Caesar, you're up next.
I'm passing, I'm only here on behalf of the, if there's any questions on the trash, that's all.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, next is Mr. Jim Kapora.
Yes, good evening. I have one thing.
Just come up to the microphone,
Yes,
Mr. Kapora,
absolutely.
just so it's recognized in the
Yes, sir.
minutes. Thank you, sir.
Your name and address.
Formal name is James Corpora, 3240 South Fifth Avenue in Whitehall. I've lived there for 34-plus years. So the gentleman here alluded to something that we live very close to the intersection of Center Street and Fifth Avenue. And the woman about Orchard Drive, I believe. If I could count on one hand the number of times that a car is on Center Street, and I mean, they just go through the stop sign like there's no tomorrow. I mean, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Fortunately, you'd have to walk out of your house and kind of walk down to the intersection. But many times in the morning, there are police cars there, which certainly that's fine. But it seems to me as though, and I believe, Mayor, you mentioned it, if 2, 3 people a month just got caught and fined, word would get around, and I think there'd be, I think the township, if possible, needs to be more proactive than reactive with the scenario. It is a terrible intersection, terrible, because cars just, and whether you're going towards Copley or towards MacArthur Road, it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, people go flying there. When you're going down Fifth Avenue, you almost have to stop because it's at a hill, and if you can't go straight because it's the Ironton Trail, but if you turn right or left going down the hill south, you almost have to come to a stop or at least slow down. But when you're coming from Center Street, from MacArthur Road towards Copley or the other direction, it is a absolute disaster waiting to happen.
And frankly, I'm really surprised that, folks haven't been, to my knowledge anyways, seriously harmed or whatever. But again, I would just like, if maybe someone can mention the idea of being more proactive than reactive.
And we are, sir. Our citation numbers are up dramatically,
Okay.
over 100%.
It's good to hear, Mayor.
Compared to
Thank
a
you.
year ago.
Okay.
And our police, I got to give kudos where kudos, are deserved. They're out there not aggressively because, there's rules and regs on what they
Sure,
can and can't
yeah.
do. But they are out there looking. Unfortunately, there was an officer who, the Orchard Drive fatal accident.
Right.
It was one of our officers engaging with someone who blew through a couple stop signs and a light. So they are out there, they are enforcing, and
Yeah, and please, I wouldn't want anyone to think that I'm in any way being critical of the police.
No,
That's
no,
not,
understood.
I mean, I'm just kind of stating what I've noticed. And it's getting worse now. You mentioned about COVID. I just think society, I mean, people don't even use turn signals anymore half the time, but it is what it is. But it's a very potentially dangerous scenario, and maybe it can be prevented with more of a proactive stance to it. So that's all. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Anthony Kopech?
At the end of this, because you're not on the sheet, simple as that.
Mr. Anthony Kopech?
Come on, Mr. Kopech.
Anthony Kopech, second-class citizen, 3763 Dogwood Drive, Whitehall. Well, I was on the fence if I was going to come down tonight, but I picked the right night because Mr. Hibbler's here, and I think he's doing a great job, actually giving the residents of the township something to do, which has been lacking in this township. It's a positive step in the right direction. I mean, although I didn't quite there was no questions for him at the end there. Nobody asked for questions, but I think he's doing a great job, and it's always great to see our elected officials out at the events I go to, mingling with the common folk. That's always nice to see. I'd like to see maybe more concerts next year, and I also noticed on some of the hot nights, there was some free swims at the pools, so, all that I think is very positive for the township. My first question is, last week was National Night Out. I was looking on the list of townships, and for some reason, I didn't see Whitehall on that list. Is that a typo, or does Whitehall not have a National Night Out?
it's not a typo, we do not.
I thought this was a Class 1 township.
It is.
Well, you don't want to engage with the public in a positive manner on a night that's celebrated across the country?
It's not that, Mr. Pope.
Oh, no, okay, I was just, yes or no. I mean, if you want to explain, let me get my questions in my 3 minutes. The guardrail down on Mickley Road, down by the historic preservation, the grist mill, is in total state of disrepair. I brought that up to Public Works in the spring. It's pushed in, it's falling in, the uprights are some broken away from the rail itself. I mean, it looks like, a wolf can come and huff and puff and blow it down, and I'm not talking a big bad wolf, I'm talking a wolf with COPD. That guardrail needs to be addressed. It was brought up to Public Works, and nothing's been done. I haven't heard anything about it. I also want to know what the township's position now is on that structure that is along the Jordan Creek down in the Jordan Greenway that we discussed the last time I was at the meeting. If the township's going to take action on that, or are we going to wait for the EAC volunteers to come back next year and clean up whatever mess is there? And there was also steps carved into the bank side to get over the bank to the Ramada Inn down there. I'm wondering if the school district needs a permit to hold non-school events at the stadium.
I don't believe the school district needs permits to do anything on their facility,
Non-school related?
non-school related. That's on them. The township doesn't have jurisdiction over the school.
Oh, okay, but when the event starts at 7 a.m. in the morning, on a Sunday morning, and you have Horizon's retirement community right there, and from what I was told, I know people that live over in that unit, there were complaints to the police about the noise that morning. But there was nothing the town, we can do about that, but we can do stuff about trucks on, Munchunk Road. That's a different thing.
That's something you're going to have to take up with the school board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kopech. Your time is up.
I would like a response on the Jordan Greenway. I asked the question. There was an answer last meeting about it. I'd like to know what the position of the township is now on it. Yeah, my 3 minutes is up, but I would like a response to my question.
I'm confused. Mr. Kopech, what exactly are you talking about down on the Greenway?
The structure that is built,
Home Depot?
no, the structure that's built along the creek where people are living.
We've been addressing these issues as they pop up.
No, last time you said you weren't going to touch it, you were,
There was a pending ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court. I'll let the solicitor intervene here, if he doesn't mind, and he can explain what we were waiting for, because there was a constitutional argument there, and maybe Mr. Gross can clarify that.
I understand it, but he can clarify to me.
So recently, the United States Supreme Court, based on a challenge from a group of states all across the country, determined that there is no constitutional right to camp in public spaces. So the township is, and I'm working on it with the police chief and the mayor to see whether our ordinances need to be adjusted based on that decision. These things do take a little bit of time. That decision was only a month ago, so it's not as if we can instantly have legislation to react to it ready to go, but we are working on it.
Well, I don't think you need legislation
Thank you, Mr. Kopech.
to do that.
The next name.
Next is Al DeConner. I think I got that right. Is it Al?
Mr. Commissioner, I'll pass. I was only going to comment if any residents were addressing the trash issue, so we'll just sit tight.
Thank you.
Same with St. Augustine.
Got it. Thank you. I believe somebody came in late there that wanted to miss the sign-in sheet. You can come on up. Both, is it two separate, or?
It's the same issue. We'll just name it.
Just one of you that wants to speak then.
Come up together.
Just your name and address then. To the microphone, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Harold Gomez. I live at 5637 North Copley Road, Whitehall. I just had open heart surgery, and my neighbor, he came along with me. I live on one side of a property, and he lives on the other side of that property. There was some issues that were resolved with some the roadway that goes down towards the creek area, well, towards the Lehigh River. Y'all came through and fixed it. Great job. But there's a house there, and from when I was talking with some of you guys that work for the township, you try to clean up some of the debris that's behind this property that's between our properties. Now, I've been considering selling my property just because my health, stuff like that. But the problem I have with my neighbor is the house is dilapidated. It should be condemned for safety reasons. And I have animals bedding up amongst my house. They don't cut the grass. Part of the roof is collapsing. I mean, it's a complete eyesore. It's bringing the value down in my home. I had my realtor came over and said to me right off the bat, you're looking to lose $30,000 to $50,000 if you attempt to sell your home with that property next to you. This gentleman here lives on the other side. And as of recently, a person across the street, and I'm not going to go into whose property it is, it's a rental, he was evicted. He has now posted up a tent in our neighborhood and is just living like a nomad. And it's,
Code enforcement has issued enforcement notice to that property owner.
so you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the follow-up on this? I mean, I don't think they're going to do anything about
Well,
it.
They need to appear in front of the district magistrate. And
Okay.
It's a court
So
order.
it's been sent?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's
So
been
what,
served.
as far as the condition of the home or the what do you call it?
Both have.
The encampment?
According to Ms. Rackus, our development chief, there's been citations issued for
Okay.
the. Notices. They have an opportunity to comply to the notice.
okay.
And if they do not, then it goes to the next level.
Okay, so another thing I have is, in relation to this, so today I witnessed them, because I have cameras all over my house, and my neighbor does too. So they cut some of the grass which is visible as you come down our road, but the property is, my house is right next to their house, and I cut a pathway, probably about, maybe 3 foot over, because that's my property line. But after that, you got grass that's just tall, deer are coming up and bedding down, and they don't cut that. And I'm concerned that nothing's gonna be done about that. Sorry, my time's up.
We can only have faith in the system and hope that they comply with the notice. And if it goes into the citation phase, that they'll, Mrs. Rackus, would you like to comment? She has much better answers than I do.
They will be given an opportunity to comply. The grass is rather easy. We do have a cutter if they don't comply within a certain period of time. We cut it for them.
This is 2 years though.
This just came to us last week.
I called last year.
Yeah.
Last year was a phone call. This year I had to go on the site. Well, actually, Chris, she sent me a sheet. I filled it out and
Yeah.
I took photos and emailed it
Yeah,
back.
and we have
I'm not saying they did not get back in a timely fashion. It was phenomenal. I'm not complaining anything about the township of Whitehall. They got to me expeditiously.
Good to hear.
My problem is, how long do I have to wait? Because I'm paying somebody, because I can't with having the open heart surgery. So I pay somebody to cut my grass at this point, just so I'm in compliance. Because I don't want my property looking like that property. It's not fair to the community. But my problem is, I don't feel they're gonna do anything about it, and we're just gonna be, it'll be fall.
The grass,
Last year
like
never
I
was
said,
done.
The grass is relatively easy because we have a cutter. We go out, they get 7 days from the notice to cut it. And so they get the notice. If they don't cut it, we'll cut it. The building issues, it's complicated. Every person's home is their castle. I can't go and redo the home. What we have to do is we send them a notice. If they don't do anything about it, it goes to the next level, goes to the magistrate. If the magistrate finds them guilty, okay, they could do something, they could be fined, they could do nothing. It goes to the next level. The township doesn't typically go in and correct properties.
Yeah, but
What about with a
No,
homeless?
sir, you have to come up. No, you have to come
I'll
up
give,
if you want to speak.
he has to speak up because he's the other property owner. He has to. I mean, I'm sorry, like, I came to,
Okay.
we're both came for the
You
same.
can come up as soon as he sits down.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
everybody. Appreciate it, man.
I'll stay here.
Your name and address then.
Chris Nagel, 5649 North Copley Road. My question is what's the actions taken for the homeless guy that's living next to my house and my neighbor's front lawn?
Well, we have to follow the law, just like Attorney Gross said, whether it's on private property or public property. But they got an enforcement notice about the individual staying there. I don't know what's gonna happen. That doesn't mean that they're gonna go away. My experience is they go somewhere else. So it could just be a game of going back to different properties. I can only follow the law.
Is there ordinances for them, like, are they allowed to do that?
No, they're not allowed to, under the zoning ordinance. You're not allowed to camp out on your front lawn. You're not allowed to use a tent as a residence.
Okay, so it should be taken care of then at some point in
We
time.
send a notice, and if they comply, then, okay, that's good. If they don't, then we go to the next level of enforcement, which is filing it through the magistrate, and then we go further. It's the way the law works.
It's not a crime, right? It's a violation of the zoning ordinance. So the process that that's being described, it's a civil enforcement process. The police can't go out and remove that
Right,
person.
right.
What was
I
described is.
can't either.
Right, it was exactly what the township needs to do.
Do
It's
things
they-
like this typically go on a timely manner, or is this something that can get dragged out for years?
Yes,
Unfortunately, there's.
to both. I mean,
Unfortunately, there's
sometimes
no.
it is
there's-
timely.
Well, unfortunately, there's no typical.
sometimes it's not.
Some property owners are respectful and responsible, and they get a notice that they're violating the ordinance, and they comply. Others get the notice and fight it for years,
Or do nothing.
or do nothing.
That's what we have people.
Yeah, but the township is doing what it can do, but it can only operate within the legal structures that exist. And what was described is exactly what we're allowed to do.
I'm hoping that it doesn't go that way, but, we're on it, and we're gonna proceed with it. And, I can't say how it's gonna play out right now.
I'm
It's
just
too
saying,
early.
just imagine coming home from work every day and you got a homeless guy living next to your house.
We understand your frustration. We're as frustrated as you are, believe it or not. I mean, we try our very best. The staff's phenomenal.
Like, I've tried talking to him, I was civil with him, so.
Well, I will personally go up there and I will address the individual. I mean, I have to watch what I do because, they have constitutional rights, but I will go talk to the owner and try to compel them, I know how to talk to people and maybe they'll be agreeable to it. But I'll do my very best, I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss? Name and address.
My name is Catherine Rabinold at 2009 Orchard Drive. My house was the fatality accident. I wasn't coming normally to speak. I was hoping to speak to an officer because I have no information yet. My car was damaged. These kids are partying down the street right now, and no answers are given to me. I have no insurance information, nothing. And it's been a week. So I would like some answers from our police station.
Can I have your name
about
and
that.
address, dear?
Catherine Rabinold. It's where the whole fatality happened.
You have an address? Are you
2009 Orchard Drive.
I will reach out to our police chief first thing in the morning and get you the information.
Thank
Could
you.
you leave your phone number with Ms. Bruder then, so I can
Now?
contact you? Yeah.
Yep,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Any other comments from the floor? Okay. We're going on to public hearing and voting on ordinances. Bill number 26-2024 is tabled. There'll be no action on that tonight. We go into public hearing and voting on resolutions. Resolution number 3332, a resolution granting the First Presbyterian Church of Hockendackwa request for a waiver of fees associated with the filing of a sign permit application for 3005 South Front Street, Whitehall Township.
I'll make that motion, Warren.
I'll second it, Pelagian.
Any comments from the board? Comments from the public? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Pelagian?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Atia's a yes. Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Resolution number
Excuse me,
3333.
President Sonic.
Oh,
Can I just ask a question on the ordinance you mentioned?
the one that was tabled, because they were supposed to give us information that nobody received here. They had promised that they were going to give information.
What information?
During the workshop, there was a discussion that the planning commission, we had requested the planning commission supply a written narrative as to why they recommended the deferral of the sidewalk.
None of that was transmitted to the developer, and the planning commission won't
It
meet
was,
until
it was
next
transmitted
week.
at the workshop when they were here. Lee, and again,
Oh. Well, I wasn't aware that it was transmitted to them. But the planning commission's not gonna meet till next month, so you're not gonna have till next week. So even if they could, and I'd have to check with Attorney Gross if we can discuss it, because it's not on the agenda. I'll go.
Time's up.
I'm done.
That was a good out, huh? Okay, and that's the reason why, we were supposed to get material that we didn't.
Mrs. Sloniker, the applicant's engineer is here, and I'm not sure that I was aware it was tabled either, so. But I won't say I'm not sure. I wasn't aware it was
Lee,
tabled.
you weren't at the workshop. No, and again, I'm not saying it because you are or not. It's just that when they promise you to get you information,
Well, in all fairness, I don't know that they could get the information.
I think
Yeah.
we agree to that. There was a discussion at last Monday's workshop that we had requested that they provide, as we're moving in, this is the first item, the first deferral that was brought up since the ordinance, there was a change in the
Right.
procedures, and it was requested that we receive a written comment. I don't want to say a justification, but the reason why the planning commission made the recommendation that they did. And I was under the impression, and perhaps I was incorrect, but I thought we had all said that this was going to be held off until we got their written comments.
I didn't realize that, Rob.
And Ms. Pelagian, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
I know it was discussed, and I don't know that, and not, just for the benefit of the engineer who's here, my understanding is that Frank Clark didn't understand that either, so.
So the thought process is that since it's new and we get a recommendation, I think as a Board of Commissioners, when they get into the details and know what's going on, they would give us a little bit of paragraph and says, here's the reason why.
And I can tell you that didn't happen at
No,
the last
it
planning
didn't,
meeting.
Lee, because it was
No.
something that we talked about, and I think it gives additional support for a deferral to be considered to back up the reasoning behind it. At least I think that's what I'm looking for, the reason.
And I think just generally, they supported the reasons that were given on the deferral request, so they didn't elaborate, I can tell you that. So, I mean, if it's tabled, it's tabled, speak to the developer's engineer, and I guess we'll put it back on for next month.
It will need to go to the question, it's not on the agenda for next week's planning commission, and it's gonna have to be an agenda item. So it's gonna have to go on the September planning agenda.
Well, explain why. I think what we're asking for is a note to explain the reason why they did that. We're not asking for a total review, right, Rob?
It may be as simple as a rehash of the minutes of that planning commission.
There's nothing on the minutes, Rob, I'm telling you.
I don't know.
Again, I'm not sure. My feeling, though, is what you're asking for is the planning commission to take action. They are, because they're gonna have to explain.
If they already took action, it's just.
Right, but they're gonna have to explain why, and I believe that will have to be, my opinion is that's gotta be an agenda item.
Okay, I just think it's I think it's an amplification of what their recommendation was. That was it's the reason why we asked it. If it's that big of a problem,
It's not that it's a problem. I just want to be clear so the developer understands.
new.
It's all new, there's going to be learning.
All new.
And I want to make clear so that we don't have confusion with the developer again, that it's a new process, and based on this, it will need to be on the September planning agenda, and then could come back here in October.
So I have a question about that. Why should we delay a developer's answer if there was a misunderstanding on our behalf? Under normal circumstances, we would approve or disapprove. And I, for one, personally believe there should be deferrals at certain times. And it's very hard to get those through, and I think this would help support a deferral. If I would be sitting here and all of a sudden you say, it's gonna go in a planning commission in September, that means it comes back to us in October. And that seems really kind of like unfair to the developer if there's a time element that's involved. Now, if they sit down and say, well, it doesn't make an effect either way, we're just going to still proceed with the job and work our way through that, and a deferral can be delayed, I'm perfectly fine with that. But if it's going to have consequences on a developer, then I think we should have to go back and visit it.
And I can explain my reasons for it needing to be on the agenda. As I understand it, you're looking for the planning commission to discuss and maybe, I mean, I don't see a way they can provide you with their rationale without some sort of action, right? They have to say, this is an action we took or we are taking, and these are the reasons why. If they're doing that, the public's going to be entitled to comment on that, and it should be on a published agenda. And tonight, it's too late to change the agenda, I think. I'm looking at.
Yeah.
It's too late to change the agenda. So it's not that I'm trying to delay it, I'm just,
No, I get it.
it's a legal reality that, again, we don't want the planning commission doing something on an item that isn't on the agenda. I don't want that.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's the first one out of the
Yeah.
gate. That, unfortunately, that's the problem.
We don't have to wait, though. is that
We
right?
don't, but my personal feeling is I'd like to understand what the planning commission felt to recommend granting a deferral. That's just me.
May I add something, please?
Come on, you have to state your name.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lee. I apologize. I would just like to point out for your consideration.
you are.
I'm sorry, Mary Bachert, Bowler Engineering. We had submitted this deferral application in April. We've been to 3 separate planning commission meetings for 10-lot subdivision. We did get your recommendation on the land development last month, as you'll recall, but there was an error at the township that the deferral was not legally advertised in time for the meeting. So we are back here again already as a second board meeting here. So to be pushed to another meeting again and potentially another planning commission meeting is an additional 2 meetings that my client will have to pay for me to be here because of a township error. So
And
that
I-
is it's a grievance against
And I
my applicant.
And what you're saying, but it's more important for us to go ahead and have the right information so that we're making prudent decisions so that somebody later on can say, well, why did they do that? And I've been on the board long enough to know that that does come back to haunt.
No, I absolutely understand your
And I'm not,
position.
yes.
I will say, though, we do have justifications listed in our application, and that is exactly what the planning commission saw, and it is a straightforward request, right? This is a deferral for a section of sidewalk on an area that is already has curbing, so we're not asking for a waiver or a deferral from curbing, and there are facilities on the other side of the intersection. So we're upgrading all the ADA ramps on all of our corners, and there is already a sidewalk across to the other side of Center Street. And that is what we presented to the Planning Commission. And ultimately, this application, this piece of paper, which has 3 sentences stating what I just told you, is what the justification was.
So I have a couple questions for you. Do you have
Sure.
your developer's agreement completed?
We do not, because they're
That's okay.
obviously waiting to get
That's
into
all right.
that during compliance.
Do you have your estimate of cost for improvements
Yes.
taken care of? So in the real world, if we're trying to make this more accommodating for the Board of Commissioners, the 2 months is a benefit on your side of the table so we get clear information. Just please hear me out. From a time point of view, you can continue to proceed based on our approvals, work on the other documents, which my experience is they don't get done in 30 days. The actual start of construction is not going to be delayed. You can actually turn around and make it a contingency in your agreements and do that. And I apologize that we weren't crystal clear, but from a time stance, you're not hurt, other than coming back a second time. And I would bet, based on the way the board feels about sidewalks, that I personally, I think if I speak for Rob, are trying to improve our setup, and we don't have the information to help justify what I think is necessary. So I would hope that you would give us the break and let us work our way through that and continue on your process. And I'm sure Matt would understand.
Sure. I understand that the time that you're asking for, I did just want to point out that it is a hardship on the applicant, and this is not a large development. So we are asking for something that, for 10 townhomes, does have a significant financial impact, and it could potentially impact whether he decides to build these units or not. We're not talking about 300 units and a little 300 section.
Understand.
It's a 10-unit subdivision. So the applicant has been more than accommodating. There were issues in January last year of getting on a planning commission agenda in the first place. I just wanted to point out that while we will do what is requested of the township, that it is becoming an exhausting process for a small developer that just wants to put in 10 units.
We have the same unit somewhere else in the township. We're trying to figure out the sidewalks the same way, and we've asked the developer to do additional items. So if you would bear with us, I would really appreciate it.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and Whitehall Township to enter into a settlement agreement regarding the tax assessment appeal of ADP Hospitality LLC and the property known as 1500 MacArthur Road. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the board?
I was talking to Rob. I want to verify. Resolution 3333, is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments from the public? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner T is a yes. Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelagian? Yes. Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
And President Sloniker.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Resolution 3334, a resolution requesting a Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Commonwealth Finance Authority Multimodal Transportation Fund grant for the Whitehall Township curb ramp improvements projects. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Scarfaro.
Do I have a second? Any comments or questions from the board?
I guess I'm, at the workshop, I made the remarks that, like, there's some curb cuts that were missed as part of our paving project because we had extra money at the end of the year. We continued work. There's one or two on Front Street excluding the property that just was discussed, and I'd like to see us button those up. I've brought that up the last 3 years, and if we can add it to this program, I would love it.
It's a zero match, so it's fully funded, so there's nothing on the township's obligation. The grant was already submitted with the diagrams of all of the intersections.
We have commissioner input when this happens again. Adding this, I guess, we focused on the street program for next year, and those, that's where we.
Not next year, the year after.
Year after, okay, it's 2 years down, okay. But I guess when some adjustments can be made prior to signing the grant agreement.
No, well, the grant agreement is going to have the application as one of the exhibits, and that's where it spells out
Okay.
exactly which.
All right, we should look to add it to the budget then, next year.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelagian?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner T is a yes. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Under other motions, this wasn't put on, but it's a motion. And motion is to, what, did somebody say something? Motion to approve the appointment of Anthony Mulchaney to serve on the Whitehall Township, with TICTA, Industrial and Commercial and Development Authority. Do I have a motion?
You probably want to add his term, 5-year term expiring December 31st, 2029.
December 31st, 29? Okay. Term expiring 12/31/29. Do I have a motion? Did we get them? No, we didn't yet.
I'll make that motion, Warren.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments from the board?
I have some questions. I didn't realize this was going to be on the agenda tonight. If I would have known in advance, I would have liked to talk to Mr. Mulchaney personally. There's issues that I would like to discuss about WICTA going forward, and I question whether or not we should appoint a person to that board now until we get those issues resolved and work our way through. If we get answers to that, then at that particular point, I would be okay with moving forward to appointing Mr. Mulchaney. This is not a Mr. Mulchaney question. I want to be really clear. If I would say no to Mr. Mulchaney, people will say I'm against him. That's not the case. If I say yes, then I feel like I'm supporting something that I don't really feel comfortable with right now until I get additional answers. So that's where I'm at, and I don't know what to do on that issue. And
What are the issues that you have?
I don't know if I can discuss them openly or whatever, but the issues is it's an independent board. For 6 years, they've done very little business, or 5 years, very little business. The budget, you support them $10,000 a year to do certain things. There's not a lot of activity down there. There are questions about, in my opinion, when I saw the last financial report came out from them, like we get from the Sewer Authority, whether there are audits, and I've been told that the audits are not required because they don't do a lot of business and they got an exemption from the state to do that. I think that's a correct statement.
You get a letter from the state.
Yes, that, because of the amount of business they do. I think that they have to follow the same code of ethics that we do. I talked to Jeff about this, or he called me about this issue last week or during the week, and I feel that when a board member is being paid $25,000 a year to provide services, then the question would be, geez, do you have a contract? What are those services? What have you done in the last 12 months to justify the $25,000 that you received? And I don't have that information available to me. The other thing is that because they're trying to save dollars and cents, a board member runs an accounting and tax office, and I understand, these are good people. These are good people down there working to try to do this. But the perception from the outside looking in, you would tend to ask what's going on. And they have a meeting coming up, I think, in September, and I'm the liaison between that. I asked for this information before, and I don't think we've received it. And I just think those kinds of questions got to be answered. And that's why I would prefer not to add somebody to the board till we get justification on those things. And if Jeff wants to chime in and tell me I'm right or wrong, but that's what the budget showed us.
You're asking questions about the board, though. We're talking about an individual going onto the board.
I understand.
And again, my perception is that one person is not going to change it one way or the other.
Well, I sure as heck would hope so.
And I don't know.
I mean, with all due respect, if I sat up here and I had a contract with the state as a commissioner, it's a conflict of interest. And when you read our charter, my understanding is that all of the boards that are with us have to follow the same code of ethics that every other board has to, and it does not appear to be the case. And I'm asking for that board to either come up and explain to us that, hey, the reason we do this is because, and explain it. And if I'm paying you $24,000 a year, then maybe you should resign from the board and then have a contract and do that. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But to sit down and vote on your own contract, that's an issue for me. I'm not saying they do.
He's
I
never
do-
did that. So
Okay, I don't have the facts, but what I do have, and I think you've all maybe got a copy, is a financial statement that shows $24,000 is paid to a board member and another $4,600 is paid to another board member, and I think they need to explain that. Because when budget comes around and they ask for another $10,000 and said they have no money and they're trying to do these things, it just needs to be supported. And that's my position. And the reason, Mr. Mulchaney's here, I don't think it's fair to take a person and appoint them into a situation that I don't feel comfortable with in the first place until we get our answers. Because then I know more than he does, and I think maybe if he knew some of the information, he would maybe think different about joining the board. So that's where I thought I would maybe abstain tonight, or what the situation is. But we really need to have this board come in and explain what the heck is going on. That's a fair question.
Well, just for the record, I'm abstaining. I wasn't there for the interview, so I'll be
It's okay.
abstaining, and I.
Same here, I wasn't here for the interview.
I've had this conversation with a solicitor before about certain, way back when, and I've looked in a little bit deeper, and when I saw the new financials came out, they didn't change. They actually got worse.
I think maybe then we can work on your request and the information you're looking for. But
Their charter was expired maybe 2 years ago, and the previous commissioners extended it for another 30 years or something to that effect. And again, if they sat down and says, we'll clean this all up and we'll do this, this, and this, and I'm perfectly fine.
So I think, again, I think what, you make a good point, and I think that that's information gathering we can do and find out. I mean, I'm sure we're all interested in getting that information, so thank you for bringing that up, Ken.
I would just simply say, there was a 2022, 2023 summary of activity. There should be a 2023 summary of activity coming out. There is a brownfield project that we're currently working on, that the board is working on. They work with Washington Prime at the Whitehall Mall. So there is activity. You can't hold a gun to somebody's head and say, take out a loan from this group or float a bond, but there has been effort to say, I mean, I would let their report, their summary speak for itself. I'm not here to defend it, but.
You sit on the board, but what I'm talking about, right? What I'm saying is correct. About the financial statements that just came out.
Yeah, the financial statement
Yes.
came out, what you said about that was
Is correct. Yes.
See, I still understand your concerns. I don't see in any way how it impacts whether we put another person on that board. And again, this is my thought, we're not,
It's my opinion.
Okay,
You know, I'm
and
one
that's-
vote.
that's fine.
I explained why. I didn't expect it to be here tonight, but it is here. And if the gentleman's in here, that's just how I feel about what's happening.
any further discussion?
Till they come in.
Any questions from the public? Mr.
Are you
Secretary?
making I mean, there was a motion.
What's that?
There was a motion and a second, as I understood it. I mean, certainly, Mr. Snyder, you're allowed to make a motion to table if you'd like.
Just tell me what.
The
just tell me what
president
to
would
do.
have to recognize you to do that, or else you can proceed for public comment and vote on the motion that's pending.
Unless whoever did the motions here withdraw their motion, I don't see any reason for us not to vote.
I just was talking procedural because there was a.
Now, there was a hand in the back. Please come up and your name and address. That's not a 3-minute.
Oh, it's not. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Andrea Hoagland, 51 Kemet Avenue. Quick question. Is it what's the rush? You can't wait 30 days and come back next month and make this decision? I don't understand. I mean, what are we gonna lose or gain if you wait 30 days?
It's like every other board. The more that you have time on it, the more you understand, the more you can interact,
Yeah,
the more
but-
you can ask questions. And that's how I see it.
Okay, but
Now,
honey,
make
you
the other
got people losing thousands of dollars waiting 2 and 3 months over sidewalks. But you can't take a month to make a decision that's gonna affect us until when? 2029?
No. That's when that part of you being on the board, that's when it would expire.
So I'm saying, we're gonna have that person for 5 years.
Right now, that,
Okay, so whatever kinks you need to work out financially or anything else to clear up whatever he has a question on. Because again, I don't have the knowledge that you have, Ken. I don't have any of the paperwork. And it's okay, because I'm trying to get to the point where it's an honor system and we trust what you're all doing. That's what we want from the town. But again, 30 days, why? Why do you have to say today? Is their term running out?
Personally, I understand where he's coming from. I just don't, to me, it's a non-performa kind of a deal here. It doesn't mean anything if he's on the board or not on the board.
Okay.
Because he's, and.
So if
I
he's
get
not on
this
the
right,
board, then
again,
30 days can wait, right? We can wait 30.
Are you done so I can talk
Okay,
now?
go
Okay.
ahead.
My question with you is, for some reason, if we appoint him onto this board, you're saying, well, that's not good because then they'll look at us and say what's what. If he gets on the board and he finds out it's as bad as what you think it is, he has the ability to resign after the first meeting.
So,
He said he can't ask the question in public.
Please.
let me think, because I don't want to hurt anybody through the conversation. If I feel that a fire is going on and I send somebody in and don't have any concerns and something goes wrong, I feel a burden for that.
It's a bad analogy. It really is a bad analogy.
Okay, all right. I said I had to think it through, so
Well, and
please
again,
bear
that's
with me.
fine. Okay.
I don't want to send somebody on a board that I know or don't feel comfortable with and put them in a situation where they got to make a decision that they maybe don't know enough about, and a vote comes up and they say yes, but they don't have the background or the facts. So I feel like I'm putting a person in an awkward situation. That's how I feel about it, and you guys can vote. I'm perfectly fine with it. I stated my case. It's on public record. I didn't expect it was going to come tonight. I hope the man has no animosity how I feel about it, but I just know more than maybe most of you do at this particular point, and that's why I have my feelings about it, and that's okay.
Ken, if I may interject. Number one, we had a very good interview with Mr. Mulchaney.
Yeah, I know.
He's eminently qualified for this
I
position.
know.
Number two, as someone who sat on the planning commission for 24 years, before I got on that planning commission, I did some due diligence and some research. I fully expect that Mr. Mulchaney did the exact same thing.
I don't know that.
So, well, you're right, you don't, but I'm going to draw a conclusion that he did.
Okay.
And I think, as President Sloniker has indicated, if he doesn't like the board that he's requested to be on, he can resign. The
Yes.
decision is up to him.
Agreed.
Can I ask
The
one
issue-
Can I ask a
No,
question?
no.
Honest, just wait till we're done, okay?
I have the time now.
All right, I'm sorry, honey.
The reality of the situation is, there are questions that you have, and I fully respect the questions that you have. There's issues, regardless of where they go, you have things that you'd like answers to. Unfortunately, I don't agree that those answers should hold up Mr. Mulchaney's appointment.
That's fine.
If he doesn't want to go through this, that's up to him. Our township is lacking in volunteers, qualified volunteers. And I think that's something that needs to be said. People can request to be put on any board, but it's good to have someone who's qualified on them. And again, Mr. Mulchaney is eminently qualified based on the interview that I had with him and the questions that were posed to him and his answers. In my opinion, I think we should move forward with the vote. That's just my opinion. I understand you have questions, and I think those questions need to be answered, and I respect those questions. But I also respect that the gentleman's here, he wants to be on the board, and I think we should vote on it. And I understand why the two other commissioners who weren't at the workshop or at the interview, don't want to vote. But I can tell you that I believe you would feel the same way that I feel, knowing your history. So,
I
thank
won't
you.
belabor, but I would support everything Mr. Plougin just said. I mean, as a commissioner that was in the meeting, I think Mr. Mulchaney's obviously more than qualified, and I do trust that he does know a little bit about joining this board and has done some research in there and through our conversation. So I'm not going to say that Ken doesn't have some legit concerns, but at the same time, I don't feel like it should hold up the vote here, so.
And I would just like to have a quick minute, and Mr. Mulchaney, I thank you for coming and for wanting to volunteer. And my abstaining is no reflection upon you or that board. I, however, just was not here to sit in the interview, and I don't feel as though I have that
Honorable.
right to vote. But thank you, I appreciate your wanting to volunteer.
Any other comments by the board?
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hey, none of this is personal. This is all business here. I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Ken, because he said that he had questions, he wasn't sure if he could answer, question in front of us, maybe he needed to talk to the solicitor. That's all I was saying was, if he needed to state or question something, because he was at, the interview, okay? And also, since we have, the two commissioners and him, that would be 3 commissioners abstaining, and then we only have 4 out of 7 voting. Maybe if whatever he needed to clear up, that would be so all 7 of you can have a vote and not just 4 of you.
Everybody has a vote, it's them.
I'm saying
it's
where
up
they
to
have
them
enough
whether they
information.
abstain or not. And
yes.
again, I don't know what the other 4 members are going to do, whether they're going to say A or nay. So
But I just didn't understand the rush of it, like tomorrow he's
It's
going to be
not-
fired if we don't hire him today?
it's not a
The
rush.
commissioner's
This is-
not going to be here if
again,
we don't
the-
hire him?
Okay. Is there any further comment from the floor?
We need 5 minutes, not 3. It's not working today. Everybody
it-
went over.
Okay.
At least 10, actually.
Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Attia is a yes. Commissioner Snyder?
And how do you vote? I've heard this board vote present, and I heard this vote abstain, and I've heard them vote yes or no. What's the difference between a present vote and an abstention vote when I heard people do that in the past?
Legally, there's no difference.
There's no difference. So my answer is not for the man or against the man. I'm going to abstain. That's what I'm doing.
Commissioner Fox? Commissioner Scarfaro?
I abstain.
Commissioner Pelagian?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna help me out with my math here, but I
It's four-
believe it's 4 to
4 to 0.
4 to
kind of
3.
a thing, yeah.
4-0, I'm sorry, with 3 abstentions.
That's an affirmative
Got it.
count, okay?
4 is more than 3.
Congratulations, after all that. And again, I understand what he's bringing up, I really do. However, it's not something that I think is what we were actually looking at. It's more of a whole board issue than an individual on the board. Okay, discussion items. Does anybody have any left over from the workshop? Go ahead.
Business privilege tax, I know the township is working on that, and just for the record, they are working to try to solve those issues and put a plan together. That's as far as that goes. Temporary sign ordinance, I met with Lee Rackus and Chris last week, and we got, 6 other municipalities on a temporary sign ordinance. We have another meeting scheduled for next week, am I right, Lee? To try to come up with a new temporary sign arrangement. The camera policy that was presented by Attorney Gross, it blew up a lot more than what I thought it would be. I would like to see that just to be revised to say that no township employee or commissioner could put anything on, make it a simple arrangement if that's something you guys are willing to talk about. The budget for 2025, I talked to Brandon and the mayor. When you go through the budget process, what happens is each department head gives their request and it kind of gets filtered down, and by the time it gets to us, we only end up with 2 or 3 items. I asked Brandon to give me the list before it gets chopped apart so I could see exactly what that item would be prior to. I don't know if the mayor will allow that to happen that way. And the same thing would be the case with any other department that wants to do it, because I'm trying to get a handle on what really needs to be done in recreation.
Can I interject here just a moment?
Sure.
In the past, we've had that where they come in front of us, this is what they want, and we have to see what administration says would maybe be in there. And they still have the right to speak up and say, but I'd really like another car, whatnot. So it's not something that they're shut down forever.
Just because it isn't in the proposed budget document does not mean that it will not be in the budget or discussed. Each bureau chief presents their budget before the Board of Commissioners, and they have every perfect right, and the administration firmly gives them the authorization to bring any additional items that might have been cut to balance the budget before you.
So I attended the last two budget meetings. I'm a novice at it. And when I sat there, the amount of questions that came up were at a minimal from the commissioner's side, the way I looked at it, because you all had a week to look at before you had your meeting. And all I'm saying is that if I am in the Cement and Playground Association and I feel I need garage doors and it gets chopped before it gets to me, I want to know that they need the garage doors. I don't want to see the budget, an item be excluded because you don't think we have the money. I want to know what has to come down the road, because that's kind of what happened. There was an item done at Cementon where there was $14,000 in to put blacktop in, and when you run out of the money, you stop. So you have half a car on blacktop and the other half not on blacktop, which is the most dumbest thing I've ever seen, okay? And I would like to know that whether or not when you did the $14,000 last year, how that was done. Did somebody go out and take the measurements and do a calculation and say, to do the blacktop the proper way, we need 24,000, as compared to somebody sitting down and saying, oh, by the way, you only can get 14, and so you only get half your blacktop. That's the most dumbest thing I've ever seen.
That wasn't what happened.
But I wasn't privy to that.
I know.
But I'm going to be approving a budget now, and as I said in the beginning, the budget's 29 mil, and I just would like that to happen, that's all. And if you just find out they can't, I also believe that there's 4 new commissioners up here, that I'm asking the president to have a meeting separate where you could educate the 4 new commissioners how the budget process works, what rolls over, what doesn't roll over. We have 50 cops in our budget, and we only have 48. Where does that money go? How's it come back and forth? So that we have to vote on the budget, we have an educated process to understand. That's what I'm asking our chairperson to do, to explain it so we know, because it is a confusing process. Is that?
You're saying a lot there, but remember, administration is the people that go ahead and say, hey, are we going to go ahead and have a tax increase, a tax decrease? Are we right on line? Is this going to be something that we can do a different way or whatnot? That's why it all comes to administration, not just from the people that are at department heads. And we've had in the past, people go ahead and ask for things, they swayed the board and they got it. We've also had where the administration said, we just can't afford that. Now, remember, we're here to go ahead and try to do what's best for the community. Not necessarily for one side or the other, what's best for the community with what resources we have. And just because it sounds great, doesn't make it a good pie.
So, with that being said, I'm going to tell you again, there's 4 brand-new commissioners up here, and the budget process is a complicated process, okay? And you always say what happened in the past. We are faced this year with a possibility of a tax increase. We're also faced with the possibility of a garbage increase, okay? Now, I've been working on something in my mind of how we could do the garbage arrangement, but the bottom line is, they can't have a budget unless we approve it. And I don't know how we approve it unless we don't understand it. And if we don't understand it, you shouldn't be voting for it. And if you don't know what's in it, you shouldn't do that. So that's how I feel about it. Now, if you're going to sit down and say, in the past we did it that way, guess what? Hands off. I don't care what we did.
No,
because
you're
hear me
wrong
out.
there, because you have to have some types of semblance of what has happened in the past and why. What you're saying is we nilly-willy just go ahead and do this. It doesn't work like that,
Well, at the
no
last
matter
budget
what.
meeting-
And what we'll do then, if we can get, and again, the main person for this would be Jack, not Jack the attorney, Jack Myers, to go ahead and sit in and explain what's going on with this. Because listen, it's not like I don't understand where you're coming from.
Thank you.
It's just that you're going ahead and saying, you know, that's 200 years that we've been here as a township, that doesn't really mean anything. It's brand new this year. It doesn't work like
When
that.
you don't have a tax increase for 10 years, please.
If we can, we understand, and I think it's a good idea that we maybe meet with Jack Myers, and get informed of how the budget, because you're right, there are 4 new ones of us, and I think that's a good idea. But I don't think sitting up here going back and forth is gonna make
Then
that
you need
happen.
to, you need to convince our president to allow that to occur.
But I don't think we need to. I think that we could talk to Jack and sit with Jack, and it doesn't have to be the 4 of us.
You know,
I think at any time we
you have
can.
a question,
And
ask.
this is what I've been trying to tell you from day one. When you have questions, it's much easier to go to a department head or somebody in control so that you understand at least what the process is. And you do go out there and ask different questions, everything, but then it comes back here and it's like a brand-new ball game for you. I just want everybody up here to have as much information to make good decisions, what they feel comfortable with.
I wish everybody up here would ask this question and Ken can sit here and shut his mouth and not say something, because privately, people say, well, we need to really dig into the budget because we're not going to have a tax increase. Our mayor has said it is coming, and how you can just sit here and not ask these questions, fine. I will say this, I was at the last year budget meeting, and one night it lasted an hour and a half, and another night it lasted about an hour. So you basically, at that time, as a resident, I sat there, and in 3.5 hours, you approved a $29 million budget, and nobody opened up the line items and went down it as a
Ben,
commissioner.
timeout.
That's all I'm asking.
I'm gonna take a timeout here. Those meetings might have lasted an hour and a half or whatever it is that you just said. I promise you that the hours and time that were spent going through those budgets were a lot longer than an hour and a half. And
I have no way of knowing that.
You don't, and that's my point here, is I feel like we're questioning everything, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing at times, but at times, there has to be a level of understanding, and I heard the word somebody said tonight, there has to be a level of trust, right? And we did spend time on those budgets, so to sit here and say that you sat in as a resident for an hour and a half, and those budgets were approved like we just snapped our fingers and that's all we looked at, that's false. And I won't accept that, because I do spend a lot more time looking at these packets when we get them and spending time on them, okay? So I don't appreciate that part, but I do appreciate you wanting to look into things. There's nothing wrong with that. I think at times we're up here disagreeing to disagree and not even realizing that we're actually agreeing. So I heard Jack say, I heard people up here say they would welcome some education on budgeting. I don't hear or see a reason to continue this conversation on and on and on beyond that.
Fine.
Okay.
I would add too, that the budget gets filtered way in advance before the board sees it. There's a wish list this long, it gets winnowed down. A lot of the items in the budget are reoccurring costs, labor costs, contract costs, medical coverage. A lot of those things are contract, there's fixed numbers for it. The only thing that we're deciding at the end is capital improvements. Are we doing 10 streets next year? Are we doing 9? Are we doing 3 playgrounds?
There's usually only a handful of things that is like, it could go this way or that way. I mean, a lot of it, like Jeff is saying, is pretty much built in. I mean,
And the thing is, Ken, is that if the budget meeting takes 2.5 or 3 hours, it's gonna take that if you have questions. Each bureau chief is there to give you their spending plan and what they're looking at for next year, whether it takes an hour and a half, or whether it takes 3 hours, or whether it takes multiple meetings.
So
Yous are
everybody-
voting on the budget, so you get to drive you have a voice in this as well.
Well, so here's the deal, okay? And I'll tell my fellow commissioners and everybody this. When I ran, I said I would support a tax increase if it would be necessary, but I would also review the budget in detail to find whether or not it is valid or not valid. And I honestly don't know how our president can sit here, have 4 brand-new board members, and that you want to be bothered by each one of us asking the same question and not having orientation.
Wait a minute, Ken, I
Hear me out.
didn't say that
I have the full-
individually. I'm gonna try to coordinate that you get together so that he has time and you guys have time.
Oh, I didn't know
If
that. You
there's-
didn't say that.
Well, that's what I tried to explain. I'm sorry that I maybe just miscalculated
See, if
what you understood.
If 4 board members were meeting at the same time, we'd have to have a public meeting.
And we have to advertise it. But anyway,
It's a public meeting.
Gentlemen, I think we belabored this,
Yeah.
but I think the idea is a good idea. I sat in on the budget meetings last year. And there's more that I have to learn, but I think we belabored this issue longer than necessary.
One quick comment, and that is, Ken, and just one quick one. I'm one of the 4 new ones, and I have a little bit of experience with budgeting. I'm not a completely green person when it comes to money, so I may not know the intricacies of every minute detail in this, but I have reviewed the budget several times over the years. So to say that you have 4 green people, I don't necessarily agree with that statement.
Well, I understand the government budget because to me it's cash in, cash out. That's what I'm accustomed to.
Okay, on the discussion items.
So there's one more item.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I thought you had.
I've been asked,
thought we didn't have any.
last one, how are we gonna go through discussing how we're gonna charge our residents garbage tax?
Is that a discussion for right now? How we're gonna discuss how to?
I'm asking how we go through that process to determine what we're gonna charge our residents for garbage tax. So next month, when we come in here and have the discussion, and someone says, you gotta approve this now, how are we gonna go through that process? I would like to know, so I can prepare.
January 1st, you're gonna have a garbage hauler.
Great,
So you're gonna have to award a bid.
yes.
How you charge for that service is going to be a cooperative effort probably between the administration and the board.
So when
You
does the-
have to approve the ordinance that sets the garbage fee in December.
Yes. So when do we go and look at the methodology that we can charge our residents and look at what we've done in the past and how we can make adjustments going in the future? Has any of my fellow board members looked at the numbers and says, this is what we did in the past, here's how we can make these adjustments going forward? Now, maybe some of you have, but no one expressed it to me. So when we have this discussion item and sit down and say, it's always been, we can't look at it as always been because it's a big increase. So my question is, how are we going to proceed with that topic? That's all I want to know.
Is this an administrative
Well,
function?
Well, to a certain extent, I mean, if you're looking at it from the position of doing something with additional senior discounts
I
or
am.
something, then you're gonna need to give us some idea of what, as a board, you're looking at as a discount. Because that's gonna set what the rate is. Because all you're doing is for every dollar you're giving to the seniors as a discount, you're increasing that to those who still have to pay the full.
So you are correct, and you and I have had conversations, and I'm asking my fellow board members to please tell me when we have a group discussion on that topic and sit down and figure it out. And it is true, the administration gives us the arrangement, but we're the ones who approve it. And what's gonna happen is that we have the right to adjust or figure it out. And I would just like to know when we're gonna have a meeting to discuss my ideas versus your ideas, and I'm tired of sitting here being the only guy that brings up the hot topics. Would someone else please tell me how they're gonna charge our residents these exorbitant fees I keep hearing about and the increases, and when are we gonna discuss it?
Well, if you talk to the president or maybe Jack, and maybe we'd have to advertise, because if we have more than 4 people, it's a quorum, so we can't obviously do it unless we're up here, maybe at a workshop. Put it on the agenda for a workshop.
And, you know, the
Could be a
thing you're
workshop.
gonna need to do too, before you even do this, is you're gonna have to pass an ordinance that changes that portion of the solid waste ordinance, which sets the discount percentage.
So obviously, I'm not that far ahead of myself, because if it has to be done in January, and it's an ordinance, it gets twice, so that takes me back to,
Oh, it's once.
only once?
It's a one hearing ordinance.
Only one reading and done, not two? Okay.
Well, workshop and regular,
Okay, so that takes me to, by October, we should pretty well know what we're doing.
or
Okay,
at the
and
latest
it's- and it
November.
is, that gives us September, October, so we have 2 meetings to figure this out. So I need somebody
We
to
could
tell
come
me
in, we
what to
can
do.
come in, but do it during a workshop, I mean, Jack?
I was expecting to be at the next workshop was gonna be on the agenda. Am I incorrect in that?
The contract will need to be awarded in October. The bids
Right.
are September.
So
They
we're
are
gonna
valid.
So we're gonna award a contract in September, but not know what we're charging our residents because we have to award the contract.
Yes.
That's
There's
okay, no,
nothing
that's okay.
impossible about that.
You have to,
costs are before you can describe a
because remember, there's options 1 through 5.
Yes,
And we have to pick which options that we want to establish the base fee.
Yes.
And then that's divided, the administration will divide that by whatever it is. And at that, during that discussion, we're gonna be discussing about, are we gonna do additional senior discounts? And I'm gonna ask somebody, and this may ruffle feathers, but I'd like to go to quarterly billing because of the giant increase it's gonna be. And I know that that's gonna be an expense that we're gonna have to pass along. But I also have some other anecdotal evidence that says, yeah, our increase is a lot, but compared to other municipalities throughout the Commonwealth, we're getting away pretty cheap. You'd be surprised.
I agree, but I just, again, in October, we gotta come and make a decision. I just think that is, yes, we're gonna approve a contract, whoever's contract it is. Before I approve a contract, I'd like to know how the hell I'm getting paid back.
Well, you're gonna get paid back.
I mean, I understand, but,
You have to know how much you're gonna charge.
it
before
would be
you get
nice,
paid
it
back.
would be nice to sit down and say to the
I get it.
consumer, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
idea would maybe put your thoughts down and bring them into the
Workshop.
So when we
It's gonna be on
discuss
the
the
workshop
garbage-
agenda. It's gonna be
Yeah,
on the workshop
I think it's a
agenda.
good idea. If anybody who has
Great,
ideas
put it
that they
on.
want to
Now I know
discuss.
it's gonna be on the
It's good.
agenda.
It has to be on. We talked about that on Monday night.
I would say, if you have a suggestion, talk it over with Jack. If Jack thinks it's viable, then we discuss it further. If Jack has problems with it, saying it's not gonna work, let's not wait till the 11th hour to propose it.
I would agree with that.
Fine. I'm not, but I'm fine.
The thing is, Ken, next month, you will set what services you're going to provide by the award of the contract.
I understand that.
That's where you fix your numbers in.
I get that. My
So-
number's not my problem. Your methodology that you charge people is where my problem is. And how we can give senior citizens a break, and I don't know what I can legally do or not legally do. Can I sit down and give somebody a break because of this or that? I don't even know how many people are currently getting breaks on our current system. So how do I sit down with a
1,089.
break? How many?
1,089.
1,089. Does everybody know it's 1,089?
We do now.
Okay, we do now. So I'm
That's
trying,
what was-
I hear you.
was the last-
Criteria would come out at the,
Might go up fractionally,
So Ken, maybe if you send an email to Jack, and any questions you have or the information you're looking for, Jack can supply that information, because obviously it's all.
I think I've submitted.
Provided it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are what your costs are based upon the bid amounts and the costs that the township incurs outside of the contract. How you decide to pay for that we recoup the revenues,
There's no question that if the garbage cost is $100,000, we will be charging our residents $100,000. In the past, it has been a conversation that seniors use less trash than the regular folks did. So I went online and looked what the average person does for garbage and worked my way through to come up with a weighted average to figure there's a method to do this methodology. That's what I'm working on, folks. So when I bring it in for the first night, and you gotta make a decision, I'm looking at it and say, an older person uses less trash and vice versa, but yet we're charging them a percentage and how you do that. And when we get all done, you may all look and say, that's BS. But at least I tried.
that's BS.
That's all I'm saying.
You just said it.
That's okay.
You're going ahead and trying to use criteria that we don't have any of the numbers here to go ahead and say, okay, if we just went ahead and just had X number of residents paying for garbage, how does that affect these people that are getting a discount or whatnot? And you can't make up, this is sort of what you go through earlier with me, and now you're going ahead and sort of arguing against that, at least in my mind, it's sort of like, well, I want it like this for this, I want it like this for that. We first have to get the criteria before we can go on forward with it. And we're not making money on collecting garbage.
I didn't say we were.
I know that, But you're trying to come up with some kind of answer without knowing what the variables will be. We don't even know what the constants are gonna be yet, let alone the variables. We don't, because if we don't get rid of this, or we get rid of that, or we put this on, they all change the whole structure of the contract.
I just approach it differently.
Okay,
I would ask Jack, so I don't have to make a phone call. There are a number of extra toters out there. If you look at that price, I'll take your recommendation if we're charging the right price for someone that has an extra trash toter.
Oh, that price will go up,
Yeah,
you know, for the extra toter, you know, it's not just gonna be the, you know, $65 or whatever.
it's that it's, someone's
Yeah.
not getting.
No,
a lot.
no,
We got
with-
people that are filling up 2 toters that they should be paying their fair share where it's
Absolutely.
someone else. Okay, that's all.
And the other thing with garbage too, I mean, garbage is, in your life is a cyclical thing. It's kind of like the argument you get with school taxes. I mean, when you're a young family, and you've lived in the township, you're putting out more garbage. As you age and the kids are, and you're an empty nester, your garbage goes down. I mean, so you're taking advantage of a situation, not taking advantage, but you're getting the benefits of that, of seniors paying for your garbage when you're of, you know, when you're putting out more. As you age, you're supporting those that are below.
But when I looked at the contract says that there's, I think it is, a tonnage for trash. I don't remember the exact number, but a tonnage for trash. And my question was that if we haul less trash this year, do we get a credit?
No.
And the answer was no. If we haul more trash, do we get charged? The answer is no. So that's a fixed cost. Then the next question was, as you work your way through, what does the average person use, trying to tie into my seniors? And that's how I'm working my way backwards, okay? And if I come up and sit down and say a senior averages 5 pounds of trash per day and work my way through, instead of giving them a flat discount, maybe I can justify the cost of actual trash that they use and take the burden and flip it over to a household that's actually using more trash and have a 2-tier system instead of a system where you have it based on income and based on the other. And I'm just looking at it for fairness based on the amount of trash that's gone. And I didn't take into consideration the grass and all the other stuff because we had that conversation before. So that's my methodology that I'm going to present to you to look at.
But the only thing, Ken, is that the majority of your costs are collection and transportation.
That's right.
So whether or not you put out an Acme bag of garbage or you fill your thing to the top, you're still paying the collection costs for having the truck come down the street,
I
dump your
get it.
thing.
I call that base cost.
Yeah,
It's a base cost.
I mean,
Yes.
so regardless, your transportation costs are gonna be the same whether or not it's, because
Fine.
it's all one. And that was the whole reason to try and decrease costs with the automated collection system. Oh, sorry.
Hey,
I'm dating,
Acme's.
I'm dating myself. They know.
I know it. Whole region has Acme's.
I know what it is.
They're still around. They're still around. Down at the shore they are.
Yes, they are. Closest one's Blair's.
all right, Ken, are you done with your discussion items then? Kenneth?
I'm not even going to discuss it tonight.
You had something.
Okay, I just want to run through the things that I brought up. We did discuss trick or treat night. It's scheduled for Friday. A number of parents have always brought up the issue of it conflicting with the school event, football game. There's band members, cheerleaders, football players, other group activities at the games. And then it's not only the people that are participating, but it's their siblings. And some of the families it's a stressful time of the year to decide which kid you're going with. You know, families are split up. We scheduled a parade around the school so that the school could participate. A parade wouldn't be a parade if we held it on a Friday night without the band being there. And as far as some people say it should be on Halloween, I prefer it be on Saturday with Sunday the rain date. Some people are concerned about, what if Sunday's a school night? We have our tree lighting on a school night. We have our Halloween parade on a school night. So I don't know if I have support in changing that, but it would be great if the school district and the township could talk about it so that we could keep families together and not separate them apart. It is about the kids, it's not about the adults.
Newsletter, like ask the people, when
Yeah,
that
maybe,
newsletter
maybe.
goes to every
Those always,
No, I know, for next,
Yeah.
early next year.
Other schools have arranged their football games around trick or treat, believe it or not. I mean, Allentown doesn't have a conflict, Northampton doesn't have a conflict. So I'm courtesy brought it up because residents have asked.
It's a tough situation. I don't know if there's the right answer, you know. It's
I mean,
never gonna make everybody
I
happy
have
in
mixed feelings
this
both ways,
situation.
but I've been a parent with, we're not
Yeah.
going trick or treating. And then when I see somebody on Facebook, don't come to my community if you're outside, well, guess what? I'm going somewhere else with my kids, and my kids can't stay in my community. So, all right, so enough of that. Trailers on properties. A couple residents have expressed concerns. How can a person park a trailer on their front lawn? And we have ordinances about parked vehicles only on improved surfaces, but non-self-propelled vehicles, we really haven't regulated, so I'm told, for a long, long time. So I don't know if that's a real concern with a lot of people, but it's been brought up to me, and I was trying to get more information on that. And then I think I stand corrected. After these improvements are made to Front Street, there might be one curb cut that I'd like to see done. So, I mean, whether it's this year, next year, or 2 years from now, I just want to get it on a list. And then the last thing is cameras. I feel that we should be working towards a security system down at the Makeley Pride and Farm and other areas that may have a high potential for vandalism. And I provided some comments to our solicitor regarding that. A year ago, 2023, February, I was hoping to get a cost estimate for a basic, what does a basic security system cost for any facility, whether it's the farm, the pavilion, or somewhere else? Just on a record loop that is motion activated, that if we see somebody tags a building, we can go back and look at it. So I would like to see something work in that direction to get a cost. If it means we can't do it through the budget, then I would like to know what that number is so we can try to go out and get a grant. But I think when we're investing over $350,000, if we have to spend $2,500 or $3,000 for a camera system that records on a loop, it's money well spent. And the cameras themselves is as good as having a person there, maybe, because people see it. They might think twice about vandalizing down at Wood Street Playground. I mean, we've had our pickleball courts get vandalized 4 times now. You know, the trash, people, we want every park to be nice, so. I'm sorry if I belabored it. Okay, one last thing, multimodal. It was brought up about Mickley Road. Mickley Road is heavily pedestrian traveled. We have people coming from the Olympic Garden Apartments and southward that walk to MacArthur Road. It's been a long time. I would like to see, I know Frank Clark, there's been talk about how do we get pedestrians from Olympic Drive out to MacArthur Road. And I think some of the fixing the guardrail thing might have some, it's a long-term goal, and I'll leave it there.
the other commissioners with discussion items. Now, the reason that I didn't call you up for discussions, either one of you, is because right now, you're going to have the opportunity to talk on this stuff when we get it later on, that we're going to have bills. And we'll just go over the same things over and over and over again. So that's the reason that, and it sure doesn't hurt to have other input and everything, but it's something where you can give somebody a call on the board and say, hey, what about this? That's fine, okay? All right. Reports of public officials. Commissioner Fox.
Thank you for coming and taking the time to listen. Unfortunately, I have nothing. I haven't received any meetings to go to at the time, and last month I was out for a family get-together out of state. So thank you for coming.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Thank you. So he left, but I wanted to thank Brandon. I think he did great, these summer concert series. Well, first, despite what may come Brandon's way, I find him to have really good energy and a real good vibe about running recreation, the department. Anyway, so I went to my first Parkway series. It was the Aardvarks. Never knew they had such a following, but I saw a lot of people there, and we had fun. It was cool. And actually, when I pulled up, I couldn't believe how many cars were parked there. So I think it's an excellent thing, and I'm glad Whitehall has it because a lot of other townships have it, and I think it's a great community event for everybody to get together. So that's it.
Commissioner Dia?
Yeah, I was gonna mention Parks and Rec, but Commissioner Scarfaro stole my thunder there, so that's okay. No, Brandon's been doing a good job. It's just nice to see. I know when I first came on the board, the recreation position, director position, was a part-time position at that time, and having Brandon in a full-time role, you could just see the difference. And that's things that we vote on during budget season and things like that. And I think that's one of those examples of something that we together, the administration and the Board of Commissioners, put something in place, and I feel like it's starting to show the results. So I'm really happy and proud of what is coming out of the Parks and Rec in Whitehall. Just another thing, I mean, there's been some really sad stories that have taken place in the township over the last couple weeks. We heard about some of them tonight, and just to keep everybody's that's suffered a loss through those, and even our first responders, they have to experience and see some things that are really difficult. And I spoke to Chief Marks over the weekend and just expressed, our support from the board on behalf of us, and, just keep everybody, both the public that, suffered a loss, as well as our first responders, and your thoughts and your prayers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Warren?
I thought I gave my commissioner's report before, but I would tag on. There were 550 cars parked for the Aardvarks and 300 cars that were parked at the last concert. And
Count them all?
Our fire police actually did. I counted about 200, over 270, 200 to 300 people in the first concert, but that was the lowest.
Is there another hand?
Huh?
More fingers?
Yeah, and I will go on with recreation. There's never been a problem like the trash. If I see trash overflowing at the Arlington Rail Trail, a simple call to Brandon gets it resolved next day. So we have to be our eyes and ears for him, but he's responded to everything. And thank you for allowing me to talk more than my allotted 2 minutes.
Commissioner Pelagian?
I attended the IRT meeting last month, and one of the things that's continually brought up at the meetings when I attend is that the IRT is desirous of having the bag house preserved. So I'm just bringing it to your attention. The comment was made was that that's the last historical cement building left in the township. So I'm just bringing it to your attention. I did miss the EAC meeting because of a conflict with with my work, but I intend to make this Thursday's meeting. Two comments, general, that are not commissioner report. Number one, Jack Myers, is it possible to get a breakdown and a total cost for the pavilion? Okay. Number two, question I think for the mayor or the administration. It's come to my understanding that there is a rodent problem in West Caddy.
That's correct.
How is that being addressed, or what's going on with that?
I got Mrs. Rocca speak on that, and she's frustrated, I'm frustrated. We don't have resources to address these issues. Lee, would you like to come up and comment on this? Thank you.
You don't have to run, Lee, to get up and start talking.
Well, let's just say that there's a challenging problem that's going on. There's problems all over the township. Specifically in that particular area, we've noticed a significant problem with rodents. I have contacted the state, I've contacted the county, went on the federal website to try and see if there were resources available. Contacted my peer in Allentown. I've reviewed what Philadelphia does. What you're dealing with is a lot of low-income properties. that do not have the resources to address it. I'm very concerned that it's not going away. We're coming up on 2 years now, and it's spreading. So probably, that will be something that I address in my budget.
Is it possible for blight remediation funds to be able to be used for this?
I don't know. I talked to the county, and they said there's nothing, so.
The problem is, we don't have a health department, the county doesn't have a health department, the city does. First-class cities can address these types of issues, we don't have the resources.
There's a lot of speculation as to why this problem is increasing. I'm not an expert. We've done what we do. In codes, we go to the property owner and say, clean it up. We've given helpful information. I've downloaded a ton of stuff so that we can hand out to the property owners. But rodents are resourceful, and they find a way to migrate from one place to another. I've had, over the years, there's been rat problems all over the township that we've had comments about. It went as bad as simple as bird feeders in Egypt. There was a big problem. People were feeding the birds, and there was a big problem for a while. They need just a little bit of food and water, and then they'll live easily.
If I could suggest two things. Number one is to make sure it gets into the next newsletter, that something gets put in the newsletter. The other thing is something on the website.
Yeah, I already have information for the website.
Okay. Yeah,
But-
I mean, I think education is the best thing to do. There's some people that don't understand some of their actions encourage this. You know, I mean, I've dealt with it. I dealt with it as a kid. Our
Yeah.
neighborhood got infested with shrews one time, and it was horrible.
I agree, and we just had the county reach out, they did West Nile spraying last Thursday in the southern portion of the township. And I had Larissa put out, well, we worked together on this one. We put it out on social media and the township website, you know, keep your containers dry, you know, and the county was very good about it. But we wanted to inform the public that, like you said, you've got to let them know, you know, where this comes from. And West Nile, just as a warning, is becoming pretty prominent in this area again. So the county did their spraying. Some people are opposed to it. It's a waterborne, you know, pesticide or herbicide, whatever you want to call it. I don't know exactly the nomenclature, but it seems to be safe for humans and pets. But once again, you know, I'm deferring to the experts on that one. So
It's difficult in Whitehall right now. I mean, I think it's difficult everywhere, but, you know, financially, and, you know, what you have happening in our demographic in the township, it's a challenge for a lot of property owners. And a lot of properties are occupied by, you know, tenants. And you don't have always the most responsible landlords, and you can go after them, you know, till the cows come home. But a lot of it rests on the occupants. And you have a lot of pressure on these people that don't have the financial resources to do what needs to be done. And that's my challenge in codes all the time. And I hear everybody, you know, talking about different things, and I hear, you know, about like trees and stuff like that. I mean, the cost of removing trees is exorbitant. So, you know, from a code standpoint, we go this delicate balance, and it's frustrating to me whenever someone like the individuals up on North Copley Road come in. That property is in a difficult state. But enforcement is just empty-handed. The laws generally are for the people that want to comply to them.
Well, and I'll be very blunt. Where I live, my next-door neighbor, it's a problem. And I've just taken it upon myself to mow the grass because you're not going to do anything about it. And you just have to accept it. I mean, is it my responsibility? No, it's not. But it's sit,
There's
complain.
a lot of people in the
It's
community
sit-
that do that.
You can sit and complain and carry on and gnash your teeth, or you can just go do something. And I'm 34 years there, and I'm done fighting. Just do it. And, you know, what are you going to do?
You know what,
Just
Lee?
deal with it.
Yeah, Lee, you can probably tell somebody 3-4 times, and I can empathize with your frustration. You've been doing it forever, and they still probably don't understand because I think, and like Jack was trying to explain, that the criminal and the civil is so different, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you can write a citation a day, and so, yeah, I give you a lot of credit because even though you tell and explain it to somebody that it's hard to wrap your head around there being no solution or making somebody do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's not easy, or
I always say that I could make the community look a lot better, but that's where all your money would go. We'd be doing it.
One final thing, and it's not necessarily directed to Leo or to the mayor, but throughout the township, and I'm through the township all the time, there is a problem with foxes and coyotes.
Well,
And we have them down
don't
in.
complain about the foxes and
I understand,
coyotes because
but-
they are natural predators to what we just discussed.
I understand that, but when you have foxes out in the daylight and they come charging at you, that's a problem.
You look like something good to
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is that, and we're in a very, I live in a highly populated, densely populated section of the township. And my neighbors have come to me and said, that, they see them, they see the foxes, they see the coyotes. We have a deer problem like you can't imagine,
And the
people-
coyotes are a solution to that too.
And, and then we have to deal with all of that, so.
And
you may
foxes, the
think-
way that,
you may think
way
that
that
the-
mom foxes work, they will be out in the daylight. They're feeding the little
Hey,
ones.
There was an issue, right? If they were out during the day, they were rabid maybe or sick, right? I
No.
think
Right.
now
No.
though.
No,
that-
they're out protecting them, but.
Yeah.
But when they're brazen, because
Yeah.
they've been fed, and again, this
Well, and
goes
again,
back
that's
to-
the human factor,
That's
yes.
the problem, that's,
Yeah.
it's one thing to have them, but I'm telling you, it's,
They hang out in my backyard. I just see them all the time. Just
thank you
laying
anyway,
there.
that's all I
Sorry.
have.
Snyder? I thought mine was before, so I have nothing.
No, okay, those were just discussion items, that's all. All right, and I want to basically follow up with what everybody has said about the concerts that we had over here in the Parkway. I was very impressed that the second one was almost as heavily attended as the first one. And just seeing how many people that were there, and everybody looked like they were having a good time, and Brandon said that there wasn't anybody that had problems or anything, so we're kind of lucky with that. So it's something good working in the township. So, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I have a lot of positives. First, I'd like to thank our police and fire department. We had a challenging week with the Orchard Drive accident, which was tragic, the Fifth Street fire, and the Spring Ridge incident on Friday night. I have to tell you something. We are blessed. Chief Builder and his firefighters, men and women, they saw a lot of bad things this week, and they spent a lot of time out there. And they deserve a round of applause for everything that they've done for us and everything they continue to do. Same with our police. We had a police officer overcome with smoke inhalation at the Fifth Street fire. We had 3 very young officers on the Orchard scene. We had a firefighter on the Orchard scene. These were some heinous accidents. These were young people that died. It doesn't matter the age. They were just heinous accidents. And being new officers and firefighters, this was shocking to them. We did outreach with the county. The county has a unit that helps these people get through, and addresses issues. Once again, I want to thank our police officers and our firefighters. I'm forever grateful. You did a phenomenal job. Unfortunately, bad things happen in threes. I sort of spooked us on Friday on the way out the door and said, God, I hope it's a quiet weekend, and then Spring Ridge went down. But thank you, Chief. Send it out to your men and women, and I wish the police were here. Second thing I have is, we were successful at transferring an LSA grant which pertained to a firefighting foam trailer for the golf facility over there. It wasn't needed by the township. The county has resources, private contractors have resources. So I reached out to Gina McNeil and Senator Miller, who sponsored that, asked them if they would change directions. They agreed. They worked diligently on our behalf to get the grant changed. We were successful in getting the grant transferred to a seal coating machine for Public Works. Their unit hasn't been replaced since the 80s. It's going to go a long way to move us forward on the Public Works side. The playground equipment at Jefferson, I want to thank Senator Miller. He graciously just gave the township $80,000, no strings attached, to buy playground equipment. Jack Myers and Brandon picked out 2 beautiful units for the playground. It's a slide combination with a 4-ride unit. They also got 2 picnic tables and 2 fixed park benches out of the deal. We're going to do the groundwork, Public Works. We have a company that's going to come in and install them. They should be done early to mid-fall, and it's going to be a great asset for Jefferson Park. I just want to reach out to Public Works. They've paved Phillips Street, Ammon Way. They're working on Roosevelt and Spruce. It was sorely needed. They're also working on Copley Road. I want to give kudos where kudos are due. They're always one step ahead of me. Whenever I make a phone call, they've addressed the issue already. And if you look at the quality of work and the volume of work that they perform for us, it's pretty amazing at a substantial cost saving to the township. So they're up on things. Today I was contacted by Representative McNeil. She offered a $50,000 grant to our police department for administrative and IT work, no strings attached, which is very positive for the township. I want to thank Chief Builder. He was successful in getting over a $400,000 grant approved for air packs for our fire department. It's a burden that we don't have to carry now. Thank you, Chief. Wonderful job. Last night, I participated in an active shooter drill at the Lehigh Valley Mall. Whitehall Police Department had the lead, Chief Marks, with his leadership, because he is the he is the president of the Lehigh Valley Chiefs Association. We had multiple outside agencies, probably every police department in the greater Lehigh Valley, the Whitehall Fire Department, Pennsylvania State Police, county assets. I was truly impressed. Our officers, it was eye-opening. It was a hostage situation in Forever 21. Their staff volunteered to stay after hours. They did a mock situation. There were people all over that mall. Our firefighters went in and physically carried, and Joey Shambo and the older gentleman on our fire department, kudos to them. They carried those people out. Although it was just a mock event, they carried them through that mall to get those people to safety and treat those people. And our police officers, they did a phenomenal job. The truly impressive part was the Pennsylvania State Police and their tactics. I was a Marine for a long time, and I have to tell you something. We should be very grateful that the Pennsylvania State Police are out there on the streets. And I'm not disparaging Whitehall or any other outside agency when I say this, but you should have saw that going on. And if I'm somewhere and in trouble, I want everyone that I saw last night to show up and help out. Last but not least, I just want to say Doc Steckel contacted me today. I've been working on this because I think it's important. I asked that the school district consider a tax abatement for our firefighters. It's just a tool to help recruit, retain, and show them we're forever grateful for the service that they provide us because they're a volunteer service. He believes in committee tonight that they were going to be successful moving forward. We don't have any hard numbers, but all the little things add up to bigger things. And it'll be really helpful in, retaining the people that we have and promoting people to come on board. And it saves the township an awful lot of money. Because if we had to set up a bargaining unit and pay salaries and legacy benefits and costs, right now, we aren't in a position to do so. So I'm forever grateful to the school board and Dr. Steckel. They took my request seriously, and I just want to thank them. And that's all I have.
Madam Treasurer?
Yes, I passed out this business privilege tax because I know last month it was a discussion item by Commissioner Snyder where he felt we didn't have a process in place. Well, I took the time and put all these slides together to show we do in fact have a process in place. We've had a process in place. The tax office works extremely hard between getting applications out, invoices out, software program, how we track down landlords, how we enter this into the Freedom system. I know this is all going away, but I will tell you, I was very, very insulted when I wasn't here for 1 month to hear that the tax office was under fire because we did not have a process. Here's to show we have a process. 494 new landlords this year alone that we picked up that probably were landlords for years that no one ever picked up before. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's going to Berkheimer, so the tax office is going to lose this process that we put in place. But I was very upset that it wasn't a discussion item tonight, but I will tell you, the tax office works extremely hard at getting us to where we are today. And I sent you the monthly report and everything balanced and all the entities were paid out.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for putting this together.
Okay, before we have an adjournment, I just want to report that we had an executive meeting on August 5th after the workshop, and that has to be said for everybody to know, and it was just on legal stuff. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you for attending. Isn't that good?